Rob, I suppose the other big question, of course, is who is the next Springbok captain going to be? Now, do you have any ideas of who Alistair Coetzee has his eyes on?
Yeah, look, that was obviously one of the early questions that came up at the media briefing at his unveiling. So understandably, people want to know, especially given the short turnaround now from his appointment to that first series against Ireland. I think it's in their national interest for there to be a national captain appointed as quickly as possible. Lots of names sort of in the washing machine, as it were. There's I think he might well be fairly well inclined to people from the Stormers, for instance. A little bit like Heine Kameya, when he came on board as Spok coach, unashamedly said early on that because he was most familiar with the Bulls culture, he would lean a little bit towards the Bulls, both in sort of the number of personnel in the squad from the Bulls initially, and looking at issues like leadership as well. And Alistair may well, considering he's had 6 full years as head coach of the Stormers, still be thinking, I know that dressing room really well. I know some of the strong characters in there. So look, there will be possibilities from the Stormers, for instance. I mean, Juan de Jong is someone who Alistair put a lot of faith in as a captain, and he could still come back into the Springbok picture. I still think that number 13 might well be an option for Juan de Jong to sort of re-establish himself in that Springbok side. So he'd be a possibility. Frans Malherbe is likely to now become the...
So it would obviously need to be someone that is locally based.
Yeah. I think so, given that there's been talk that although foreign-based players will still be chosen, certainly in this first year, Alistair's already confirmed status quo, so they can take players from the board.
He said bar Brian Habana, though, because of
Brian
potential
Habana,
sevens commitments.
Sevens commitments not available for the June series against Ireland, but that's not necessarily an impediment to sort of later involvement. But a guy like Frans Malherbe, I think will probably become the first choice tight head now that Yanni du Plessis has probably had his sort of swan song and gone overseas. So Frans Malherbe is co-captain of the Stormers at the moment. I'm wondering whether he'll be reasonably favourably inclined on that front, although I have issues with a tight head prop being a captain, given that tight head props tend to come off the field after 55 or 60 minutes, job done on the day sort of thing. So it's up in the air. I mean, Joburg lobby will still be quite keen on someone like Warren Whiteley, and I don't know how Alistair feels about Warren Whiteley, given that he was sort of a more sort of northern franchise captain, and has been doing really well. And Alistair's come back into the country after a period in Japan, so I don't know how he feels Warren Whiteley's been playing, for instance, because if Warren Whiteley was to come in as the captain, he'd have to prove that he was good enough to take the number 8 jersey, presumably, and that means that a certain Dwayne Vermeulen, based overseas, and who was Alistair Coetzee's captain in his final season with the Stormers, he would then have to find a place elsewhere in the loose trio, and he could play on the blindside flank potentially. So lots up in the air. The fly halves, I mean, Lambie, Pollard, when he's fit again, have been spoken about as potential future Springbok captains, but does future translate into present? I don't know. So I've got to admit that one is very much up in the air, and Alistair says he wants to get a squad together first before he makes his final choice. I imagine we'll get that choice, within the next couple of weeks.